Hey everyone, my name is Sam, also known as Mr. Stainless001, and this is Road to Reputation. Basically, in these videos I'm going to be taking my Warden and trying to reach the highest reputation I can in the game, while sharing some tips, some thoughts, and really just analysing my play as we go. Today I want to talk about honour and honour rules in the game, and it's going to be a big one and probably a heated discussion in the comments. But before I do, if you want to chat with me more about For Honor, ask me questions about games in general, or just meet like-minded gamers, feel free to join my Discord community. There's a link to it in the video description. With that said, I want to get into today's Reputation Road topic. What you're seeing here in the background is some 4v4 elimination gameplay, which is very appropriate for what we're going to be talking about today, and that's honour rules. I equally want to preface this with the fact that I don't have any problem if you like honour rules. I don't really have any real problem with honour rules as a whole. As you'll see, I adhere to a couple myself, as we'll talk about it more. My main issue in today's video is that some members of the For Honor community treat honour rules as if they're official rules for the game. Since before the betas, there was this language that started to generate around For Honor, and it was basically people saying, hey, you want to play the game right? Fight with honour. From there, these players then began to set forth certain rules, certain ways that you had to play in order to fight with honour, and if you didn't play by these rules, you weren't a true For Honor player. You were a noob, you were a button masher, a ledge pusher. You basically weren't welcome at the game, and they would have just spammed you in messages saying that you were crap at the game. What I want to say, and I hope you'll pardon my French here, is that that is complete bullshit. But before I tell you why, I want to draw a reference to a Eurogamer article where they've listed the honour rules that they have found, just so you guys have a better understanding of what the honour in For Honor entails. Rule number 1, if you win your duel, don't help your teammate out. Watch patiently, perhaps chucking an emote or two to cheer your teammate on for the fight to play out. Only after the fight is concluded should you get stuck in. Rule number 2, do not health steal from your teammate by landing the heavy final blow and thus triggering a health restoration execution. This is a bad form in the extreme. I didn't even know this was an honour rule. I'm even learning some things here. Rule number 3, when a duel begins on a part of the map clearly designed to encourage chucking someone off a cliff or into some terrible pit for an instant kill, both players should move into an area where that's less likely to happen before slashing each other to bits. Rule number 4, environmental kills are frowned upon as cheap. Do not chuck people into spikes or onto hot springs or into lava. Doing so isn't clever, nor is it a good way to make friends. I didn't know we were here to make friends, but anyway, an honourable victory is one earned through outsmarting your opponent with parries, feints, and guard breaks. Rule number 5, do not behead your opponent if you had a good fight. Doing so is disrespectful. Rule number 6, following on from number 4, upon victory, do not spam emotes, particularly those that when repeated make your character look like they're masturbating. I love that rule. I actually love when people do that in the game. I find it funny. Even whenever I get absolutely obliterated in a match, the one thing that does lighten it for me and actually make me chuckle, even if they've destroyed me, is an Orochi or a Conqueror spamming their emote. I find it quite funny. But anyway, back to the rules. Number 7, if you had a good fight, tell your opponent you had a good fight. Number 8, if you stump all over your opponent on your first match to such an extent that there's a clear skill gap, switch to another less used hero for the second. 9, and finally, do not rage quit. For Honor replaces rage quitters with full health bots. It's not nice. Okay, now before we go any further, I want to express 2 points. Firstly, some of these rules do make sense, but not for the reasons they've given. And secondly, and the real message I want to get across to you guys today is, just because you play adhering to the honour rules system doesn't mean that other players will, and doesn't mean that they should adhere to the honour rules system as well, especially if you're playing in public matchmaking. With point number 1, if you win your duel, don't help your teammate out. Now, granted, there are a lot of times in game where I do this, but it depends on who I'm playing against. If the 2v2 or even the 4v4 elimination players I've been matched up with are adhering to this style of play, I'll adhere to it too. I don't want to be the one dick that comes in and ruins the party. But equally, there are times where I've ran in and hijacked a duel between my teammate and another player because I know they're struggling. And for instance, if it's in a 4v4 and I know that I'm going to need my teammate to stay alive in order to perhaps take on a Lawbringer or take on a Peacekeeper, two characters that I may not be as strong against, I'll do what I need to keep them in the game. It doesn't make me dishonourable, it's a tactical decision that I'm making on the battlefield to ensure that my team comes out on top and are best equipped to win the match. Now, does that mean that I don't get salty when I get ganged up on? Of course not. However, if I bring this back to the first video I made in Reputation Road, even in defeat, there's something to learn. At the start of playing For Honor, if I was in a 1v2 situation, I would have thought, oh well, I had a good life, and almost just accepted my fate. Now, after practice, and being in these kinds of situations more and more, I've learned how to deal with a 1v2 or even a 1v3 situation, which I have on stream before. There's even a clip of me taking on, I think it's a 1v4 situation over on Twitch, and actually coming out alive and killing a few of them. I've learned that what's important in those moments is patience. Use your revenge well, focus on taking out the panicking or weaker opponents so that you can focus on your main threats. If I was never forced into those situations, I'd never have learned those skills. If I only fought against players who fought with honor rules, I would be a worse player than I am today. And I want to challenge you with that thought. If we only play For Honor using honor rules, I truly believe that we would be worse players because of it. Now, to continue, the same goes for point number 3 about walking away from places where you could throw off your or your opponent could throw you off the map. My problem with this is that this rule almost exists as if the devs accidentally put these environmental hazards in and didn't actually intend for them to be used. Are there duels where I'll walk away from the environmental hazards before I duel? Absolutely, but it's not because of honor, it's because I want that opponent to fight this duel on my terms. Is there anything wrong with kicking an opponent into a geyser or off a cliff? Absolutely not. Is it annoying? Absolutely yes, but again, to bring it back to the last video, one valuable thing you learn is footing. If you find that you keep on getting kicked into hazards, you'll try and make sure that the duel is carried out in an area that you're more comfortable in. It's about controlling the momentum and power in a duel. To give you an example, on Overwatch, the first duel is carried out with those two big pits on either side. Now, what has happened before is that my opponent will just stand on their side of the walkway and want me to come to them, mainly so that they have the more solid ground. But in these moments, I do one of two things, sometimes both. Either I stay on my side and try and wait them out, or alternatively, if that fails, I'll charge at them, knowing that they'll try to prioritize guard breaks to get the easy kill. So I keep my eyes on my guard break counter and focus on taking them down. It's all tactical decision making. It has nothing to do with honor. Now, there are some duels, I will say, that I will purposefully not kick my opponent off a cliff. The main times where I'll do that is when I feel like the opponent is better than me, or I'm just having a really good duel and I want it to last longer. In cases like that, there's almost like an unspoken understanding between your opponent and you that just is generated inside that duel that says, hey, I know there's tons of environmental hazards around here, but the way we're fighting is really cool. I'm learning something. I'm learning how to fight against the character you're playing as. I want to keep this duel going for as long as possible, so I'm not going to kick you off the cliff. Which is why in those moments, and you'll know when you're in one of those duels, because whenever your opponent kicks you off a cliff using a heavy attack or does something which seems accidental, they'll probably apologize for it in the chat. And this ties in with, by the way, talking all about footing ties in with point number 4. If winning a duel is about outsmarting your opponent, then that includes outsmarting an opponent that doesn't realize that standing with a cliff behind them isn't a good idea. If you're not smart enough to choose good footing, you can be sure that I'll try and be smart enough to exploit it. With point number 5, as I said, beheading your opponent is disrespectful. That is just beyond ridiculous to me. I didn't even know that was a rule until I came across this article. With point number 7, if you had a good fight, tell your opponent it was a good fight. Put very simply, you don't have to. I know I do it simply to show respect or disrespect to my opponent if I don't tell them that it was a good fight. Equally, in a duel, I do like starting by taunting. If my opponent taunts back, that says to me, oh cool, we're having this kind of subliminal conversation through emotes, that's kind of cool. Equally, there have been times in duels where my opponent and I have emoted and then just slowly walk towards each other to start the duel. It's not to do with honour, it's simply because in that moment we were both really enjoying the game and we're creating this cinematic type of experience before we inevitably chop each other's heads off. One point that really enraged me though in this article, I apprehensively say that it triggered me, but because I hate the use of that word, but it's point number 8, where if you beat your opponent, say 3-0, you should change out to a weaker warrior next duel because that will be fair. Now I'm going to tackle this one as well as point 9 too about rage quitting. Don't rage quit because it's dishonourable, just don't do it because you won't learn anything. And it's the same for point number 8. If you're playing against someone who is beating you, you should continue to play against them because in order to overcome them, you'll need to progress as a player. Fight the people who beat you and teach the people you beat. If you're defeating someone 3-0 and at the end of the duel they're readying up, they're telling you, I want to get back in this because I want to learn how to kick your ass. So give them the opportunity to kick your ass. Don't go easy on them, otherwise they won't learn anything. Now over on Reddit, Bro with the Fro made a great response to the For Honor rules in the game. So rather than try to pretend that I could be as eloquent as him, I'm going to basically read off what he said. As always, I'll leave the link to his post in the video description where you can go and upvote it as well. I think it's already got like 4,500 upvotes over on Reddit, so I believe that there are other people in the community who are agreeing with what we're trying to say here. But Bro with the Fro says, I was quite big in the Dark Souls community, so I am no stranger to honor rules. I've already seen its effects, but I hope it doesn't ruin the game. The developers put in things like hazards, cliffs, fire, etc. to make gameplay more varied. Creating an imaginary rule that scolds a player for using these is so stupid. There are parts of maps that are made specifically for the hazards to be used as the main threat. Bridges, cliffs, geysers, filled, battleground. Yet every time you make use of them, someone quits or gets salty and flames you. I personally find that footing, positioning would make for more varied and, in his opinion, better gameplay. This is technically a fighting game and rarely do fighting games have that added dimension of map knowledge. That's awesome. I say we embrace the hazards, learn to play safer when we're around them and punish any attempts for an easy kill. I think that's kind of what I alluded to earlier on there. The saltiness around hazards can really turn off new players to the game. I've gotten quitters and people raging in chat like 90% of times I've used a hazard, and it's some aggressive rage. For what though? Let's not get so crazy about unwritten honor rules. It'll split and ruin the community so quickly. If you're playing a duel or a brawl that someone breaks one of these honor rules, just try not to get salty. It's not going to achieve anything. Instead, see if there's something you can learn from the experience, something that could make you as a player better, and understand that not everyone is going to play the game the way you want to play it. And that's okay. Folks, that's all I have to say for today's Reputation Road. As always, I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. I already have a feeling that there may be some split opinion there. Alternatively, feel free to join me on my Discord and we can, of course, continue the discussion there. In the meantime, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe and be kept up to date on when the next videos come out. But in the meantime, hope you're all having a great week. I'll speak to you soon.
Later.